This is Lesson 1.3, Properties of Numbers. Your objectives are to recognize the properties of equality and identity, and recognize the commutative and associative properties. Identity and equality properties. The identity and equality properties in the chart below can help you solve algebraic equations and evaluate mathematical expressions. Additive identity. For any number a plus 0 equals a. 7 plus 0 equals 7. So adding 0 to a number does not change it. It stays identical. Additive inverse. For any number a plus negative a equals 0. There was a typo. Please change that to 0. So 5 plus negative 5 equals 0. When you add a negative to a number, you get 0. Multiplicative identity. For any number a times 1 equals a. Negative 2 times 1 equals negative 2. Multiplying by 1 does not change it. It stays identical. Multiplicative property of 0. For any number a times 0 equals 0. 3 times 0 equals 0. When you multiply by 0, the answer is 0. Multiplicative inverse property. For every number a and b where b is not 0, there is exactly one number b over a such that a over b times b over a equals 1. 2/3 times 3/2 equals 1. When you multiply a number by its reciprocal, the answer is 1. For the reflexive property, for any number a equals a. 12 equals 12. That's the reflexive property. For the symmetric property, for any numbers a and b, if a equals b, then b equals a. If x equals 5, then 5 equals x. You're switching things around the equal sign. For the transitive property, for any numbers a, b, and c, if a equals b and b equals c, then a equals c. Notice the 3 steps going there. Notice that reflexive, symmetric, and transitive begin with R, S, and T in that order. And the reflexive property has one thing happening, A equals A. Symmetric has 2. If A equals B, then B equals A. And transitive has 3. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. So R, S, T, 1, 2, 3. Remember it that way. And the substitution property. If a equals b, then a may be replaced by b in any expression. Evaluate 24 times 1 minus 8 plus 5 times the quantity 9 divided by 3 minus 3, and name the property used in each step. Do parentheses first, and within the parentheses you have division and subtraction. Do the subtraction first. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And you substitute the 9 divided by 3 with a 3. Whenever you do an operation like that, the reason is going to be substitution. You still have parentheses, so do the 3 minus 3, which is 0, and that's substitution. Now, you have multiplication, go left to right, do the 24 times 1, which is 24, and that's the multiplicative identity, because when you multiply by 1, you get the same thing. You have another multiplication, 5 times 0 equals 0. That's the multiplicative property of 0. When you multiply by 0, you get 0. Evaluate each expression. Name the property used in each step. For number 1, start with parentheses. Within the parentheses, you have addition and an exponent. Do the exponent first. 1/2 squared is 1/4. And that's substitution. Still within the parentheses, you have addition. 1/4 plus 1/4, and that's 1/2, and that reason is substitution. Finally, 2 times a half equals 1, and that's the multiplicative inverse. When you multiply something by its reciprocal, the answer is 1. For number 2, do parentheses first. Within the parentheses, do the division first. 15 divided by 3 is 5. And that's substitution. Still within the parentheses, 5 minus 5 is 0. And that's going to be the additive inverse. Whenever you add the opposite of a number and you get 0, that's the additive inverse. Now we have some multiplication. Do that left to right. 15 times 1 is 15. And that's the additive identity. Multiply 2 times 0 next to get 0, and that's the multiplicative property of 0. Subtract and add left to right, so 15 minus 9 is 6. That's substitution. And finally, 6 plus 0 is 6, because it's the additive identity. When you add 0, you get the same thing. For number 3, do the parentheses first. Inside the parentheses, you have multiplication that you can do left to right. 3 times 5 is 15. And that will be substitution. Do the next multiplication, 15 times 1 to get 15. And when you multiply by 1, that's the multiplicative identity. Still within the parentheses is 15 minus 14, which is 1. And that will be substitution. 2 times 1 is the next step, which is 2. When you multiply by 1 and get the same thing, that's the multiplicative identity. And do you subtract or multiply next? You multiply. 4 times 1/4 is 1. And when you multiply a number by its reciprocal to get 1, that's the multiplicative inverse. Finally, 2 minus 1 is 1, and that's substitution. For number 4, start with the parentheses. Inside the parentheses, do you divide or subtract? You divide. 6 divided by 3 is 2, and that will be substitution. Still within the parentheses, you have 2 minus 2, which is 0, and when you add the negative of a number and get 0, that's the additive inverse. Next, we'll multiply and divide left to right. 18 times 1 is 18. And when you multiply by 1, that's the multiplicative identity. The next multiplication is 3 times 2, which is 6. And that will just be substitution. Then you have 2 times 0, which is 0. When you multiply by 0, that's the multiplicative property of 0. 18 minus 6 is next, which is 12. That's substitution. And finally, 12 plus 0 is 12. That's the additive identity. When you add 0, you get the same thing. So remember for these, whenever it's one of the special properties, like multiplying by 0 or multiplying by 1 or adding 0, use this special property. If it's not one of those, it's going to be substitution. The commutative and associative properties. The commutative and associative properties can be used to simplify expressions. The commutative property states that the order in which you add or multiply numbers does not change their sum or product. For example, 2 plus 5 is the same as 5 plus 2. The associative properties state that the way you group 3 or more numbers when adding or multiplying does not change their sum or product. If you're adding 3 numbers, it doesn't matter if you add the first 2 together or the second 2 together. Example 1. Evaluate 6 times 2 times 3 times 5 using the properties of numbers, and name the property used in each step. The reason you would switch things around here is to give you easier numbers to work with. As I'm looking at those numbers, 2 times 5 will give me a 10, which is an easy number to work with. And that's why they switched those around with the commutative property. Order doesn't matter. Then they put the 2 sets of numbers in parentheses using the associative property, and then they went ahead and did the multiplication. So when you reorder things, put them together where they will give you an easy number to work with. For example 2, evaluate 8.2 plus 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 1.8 using properties of numbers, and name the property used in each step. Well, I'm going to reorder these because I know that 8.2 and 1.8 will give me 10, which is an easier number to work with. 0.2 and 0.8 will get rid of the decimal. The same with the 2.5 and the 2.5. The commutative property lets us change the order there. Then notice they group them in parentheses using the associative property. 8.2 plus 1.8 is 10. That's a lot easier to use. 2.5 plus 2.5 is 5. And that's a lot easier to use. That's the whole reason you would reorder these numbers, is to give you easier numbers to work with. Number 1, 12 plus 10 plus 8 plus 5. Let's reorder these numbers in a way that will give us numbers easier to work with, like numbers that will end in a 0 when you add them. And that would be the 12 and the 8. So let's reorder these with the 12 plus 8 together, and that's the commutative property. Then we can put parentheses around each group. That's the associative property. 12 plus 8 is 20. That's a much easier number. And 10 plus 5 is 15. Those reasons are both substitution. And finally, 20 plus 15 is 35. 20 plus 15 is a very easy operation to do because we got easier numbers to work with by reordering things. For number 3, 10 times 7 times 2.5. I have a decimal there, but a decimal multiplied by 10 will get rid of the decimal. So let's put the 10 and the 2.5 together, and that's the commutative property. Now I can just multiply in order left to right. 10 times 2.5 is 25. That'll be substitution. And finally, 25 times 7 is 175. And that's substitution. Put the numbers together. That'll give you easier numbers to work with. For number 5, I can put the 20 and the 10 together and the 12 and the 5 together. That will give me easier numbers to do. Commutative property changes the order. Then I'll put parentheses around each of those groups. With the associative property, 20 plus 10 is 30. That's still an easy number. And 12 plus 5 is going to be 17. Those are both the substitution properties. And now it's very easy to add 30 and 17 and get 47 with the substitution property there. For number 7, I'm going to reorder these and put the fractions together because I know that a half plus a half will give me a whole, and that will give me easier numbers. When you change the order, that's the commutative property. I can put parentheses around each group using the associative property. Now add 3.5 plus 2.5, and you get 6. That's substitution. When you add the 4 and the 3 together, you get 7, and that's another substitution. And finally, you get 13 with another substitution. We changed the order to get the fractions together so that we would have easier numbers to use. For number 9, I've got some decimals here. I can rearrange these so that hopefully one of them will cancel out the decimal and give me just an integer. And I can see that 2.4 and 3.6 will do that because the 4 and the 6 will give me a 0 at the end of the number. So let's rearrange those. That's the commutative property. I can group those in parentheses using the associative property. And 2.4 plus 3.6 is 6. The decimal has gone away. .5 plus 4.2 is 7.7. Substitution for both of those. And finally, you get 13.7. By grouping together the 2.4 and the 3.6, you were able to get rid of the decimal for that number. For number 11, it would be easier to do 0.5 times 4 than to do 0.5 times 2.8. So let's change the order using the commutative property. And 0.5 times 4 is 2. That's an easy number to use. Now we have 2 times 2.8, which is 5.6. Change the order to give you easier numbers to work with. Number 13 has fractions. What can I multiply 4/5 by to give me an easy number? It should be something divisible by 5, like 25. So let's rearrange those. And 2/9 can be multiplied by 18, since 18 is divisible by 9. Reorder with the commutative property. Put parentheses around those with the associative property. And then when you do 4/5 times 25, you get 20. That's a very easy number to use now. 18 times 2/9 is 4, and that's a very easy number to use. Finally, 20 times 4 is 80. When you have fractions like that, try to put it with a number that is divisible by the denominator of the fraction. That will cancel out the fraction, giving you integers to use. With 15, I have fractions. I have 1/4. Is 7 or 16 divisible by 4? 16 is. So let's put 1/4 and 16 together. Then I have 1/7. And 7 is divisible by 7, so let's put those two together. Rearrange them using the commutative property. Put parentheses around them using the associative property. Now when you multiply, those fractions will go away. 1/4 times 16 is 4. And 7 times 1/7 is 1. And that's the multiplicative inverse, by the way, because you're multiplying something by the reciprocal. Then when you do 4 times 1 to get 4, that's the multiplicative identity. So when you have fractions, multiply them by a number that will allow you to hopefully cancel out the fraction. So always remember the properties and what they allow us to do. Adding 0 doesn't change things. Multiplying by 1 doesn't change things. Multiplying by 0 is always 0. Also remember your reflexive, symmetric, and transitive properties, RST, 1, 2, 3. Commutative lets you rearrange the order, and the associative property lets you put the different numbers in parentheses.